14 seconds, that's all it took. In those 14 seconds, a small Ukrainian drone costing less than a used car evaded one of the world's most sophisticated air defense systems, penetrated multiple layers of protection, and struck a target worth $500 million. The S-400 Triumf, Russia's pride NATO nightmare, a system designed to shoot down stealth fighters, ballistic missiles, and aircraft flying at 17,000 miles per hour. But on that day, it couldn't stop something moving at 60. This is the story of asymmetric warfare in the 21st century, where innovation defeats brute force, where a $40,000 drone humiliates a $500 million fortress. This is the 14-second battle that changed modern air defense forever. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to when Russia deployed what it called an impenetrable shield over occupied Ukraine. Of the S-400 Triumf, NATO designation Sa-21 Growler isn't just an air defense system, it's a technological fortress. It developed over 2 decades by Russia's Almaz Anti. It represents the pinnacle of Soviet-era engineering philosophy, overwhelming capability through layered redundancy. The system can track up to 300 targets simultaneously. It can engage 36 of them at once. Its missiles can reach altitudes of 30 kilometers and distances of 400 kilometers. It uses multiple radar frequencies, making it nearly impossible to jam. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, it deployed multiple S-400 battalions to protect critical military infrastructure, command centers, and logistics hubs in occupied territories. The message was clear. Ukrainian aircraft wouldn't fly. Western-supplied missiles wouldn't penetrate. The airspace was sealed, but Russia made a critical miscalculation. They designed their fortress to stop tigers. They never Ukraine's response to Russia's air superiority didn't come from fighter jets or cruise missiles. It came from hobbyists. In the early months of the war, Ukrainian volunteers, many of them civilian drone racing enthusiasts, began modifying commercial quadcopters, G-Mavics, FPV racing drones, even agricultural spraying drones. They attached grenades. They added thermal cameras. They extended their range. These weren't military drones in the traditional sense. No million-dollar predators, no stealth technology, just off-the-shelf consumer electronics, Ukrainian ingenuity, and a deep understanding of a fundamental principle. Expensive systems are designed to fight expensive threats. The S-400 uses a network of radars operating on different frequency bands. The 91 NSYS-E Big Bird radar provides long-range surveillance. It can see an F-16 at 600 kilometers. The 96 L6E all-altitude detector fills the medium range. The 30 K6E battle management system coordinates everything, thing. But here's the problem. These radars are optimized for fast-moving, high-altitude targets. Fighter jets traveling at Mach 2, cruise missiles at Mach 0.8, ballistic missiles descending at hypersonic speeds. A small plastic drone flying 50 meters above the ground at 60 kilometers per hour barely registers. Its radar cross-section is smaller than a seagull. Its heat signature is negligible. It doesn't emit the radio frequencies military aircraft use. To the S-400's sophisticated sensors, Ukrainian drones are nothing background noise, birds, weather phenomena. Ukrainian operators learned to exploit this. They studied Russian air defense patterns. They mapped radar coverage zones. They identified blind spots, areas where terrain masking and low-altitude flight could hide their approach. And they weaponized patience. Unlike cruise missiles that announce their presence with speed and altitude, drones could loiter, wait, watch. Circle Russian positions for hours, invisible to billion-dollar sensors until the perfect moment presented itself. The perfect 14 seconds sidered the mosquitoes. The target was a Russian S-400 battalion position near occupied Jankoy in Crimea, June 2023. For weeks, Ukrainian intelligence had monitored this site through satellite imagery, signal intercepts, and human sources. They knew the layout, the patrol schedules, the radar rotation patterns, and they knew something else. The S-400 crews had become complacent. Complacency is the invisible enemy of every military force. After months of operation without serious threat, with Ukrainian aircraft staying well outside the S-400's reach and Western missiles intercepted or deterred, the Russian crews had settled into routine. Radar operators watching screens, missile crews on standby. But attention wanders. Response time slow. The assumption becomes, nothing will happen tonight. Ukrainian planners understood human psychology as well as they understood radar physics. The operation launched at 0230 hours local time. A small team, 3 operators, 2 spotters, positioned 70 kilometers from the target. Their weapon, a modified commercial FPV drone carrying a shape-charged warhead weighing 3 kilograms. Total cost of the platform, approximately $40,000, including modifications. The drone lifted off in complete darkness, no lights, electric motors nearly silent. It flew low, 30 meters above the ground, following a pre-programmed route that exploited terrain features, valleys, tree lines, and agricultural buildings. At this altitude, in darkness, the drone was invisible, not just to radar, to the human eye. Even if Russian sentries had been looking directly at it, they wouldn't have seen it. 12 kilometers from the target, the operator switched to manual control. This was the critical phase. Too much altitude and they'd appear on radar, too little and they'd hit an obstacle. The operator, call sign Asokol, meaning Falcon, had been a drone racing champion before the war. His hands steady, eyes focused on the video feed transmitted from the drone's nose camera. 5 kilometers out, he could see it on his screen. The S-400 battery illuminated by security lights, launchers, radar masts, command vehicles, and there in the center, the most valuable target, the 30K6E battle management radar vehicle, the brain of the entire system. So Keel adjusted his approach vector. Low, fast, straight line, no evasive maneuvers. Those would cost time and expose the drone to longer detection windows. 1 kilometer, the thermal signature of the radar vehicle growing larger on his screen. 500 meters, no alarm. No reaction from the Russian position, 200 meters. He could see the radar dish rotating slowly. And then 14 seconds. 14 seconds from the moment the S-400 sensors should have detected the threat to the moment of impact. In those 14 seconds, the following should have happened: radar detection and classification, threat assessment, targeting solution, weapons activation, missile engagement. Because by the time the Russian systems recognized something was wrong, by the time a radar operator noticed an anomalous return, by the time anyone could react, the drone had already covered the final 200 meters. At 0247 hours, the warhead detonated against the side of the 30K6E command vehicle. The explosion destroyed the command vehicle and killed 3 Russian air defense personnel. But the physical damage, significant as it was, represented only a fraction of the actual impact. An S-400 battalion without its battle management system is blind. The individual radars still function, but they can't coordinate. They can't prioritize targets or allocate weapons efficiently. The entire layered defense architecture collapses. For 6 hours, that section of Crimean airspace was effectively undefended. Ukrainian strike aircraft, which had avoided the area for months, exploited the gap. 3 additional strikes were conducted before dawn: ammunition depots, fuel storage, logistics nodes. But the strategic implications reached far beyond one night's operation. Within weeks, commercial satellite imagery showed Russian forces relocating S-400 systems throughout occupied territories, moving them back, clustering them closer to higher value targets, and leaving gaps in coverage. Why? Because Russia had to assume every S-400 was now vulnerable. If one could be destroyed by a $40,000 drone, they all could. The psychological impact on Russian air defense crews was devastating. How do you defend against a threat you can't see? How do you maintain alertness against an enemy that could be anywhere or nowhere? Defense analysts worldwide took notice. The implications were staggering. For decades, air defense had followed a predictable pattern: increasingly sophisticated sensors paired with increasingly capable missiles. Billion-dollar systems designed to counter $100 million threats. Ukraine demonstrated that this paradigm was obsolete. A swarm of cheap, expendable drones, each individually insignificant, could overwhelm even the most advanced air defenses through sheer numbers and unpredictability. 10 drones costing $400,000 total could saturate a system worth $500 million. The economic calculus of air defense had been inverted. Countries operating S-400 systems, India, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, China, suddenly faced uncomfortable questions about their multi-billion-dollar investments. NATO planners revised threat assessments. Defense contractors scrambled to develop counter-drone systems. Russia itself began rapidly deploying electronic warfare systems and short-range anti-drone guns around high-value assets. But these systems have their own vulnerabilities, their own costs, their own limitations. The 14-second battle in Crimea didn't just destroy one radar vehicle. It exposed a fundamental vulnerability in modern military technology. Complexity is a weakness when facing simplicity at scale. War has always been a competition between armor and projectile, castle walls and siege weapons, tank armor and anti-tank missiles, stealth aircraft and radar. The lesson of Ukraine is that this competition may have reached a tipping point. When a $40,000 drone can destroy a $500 million air defense system, when commercial technology can defeat military-grade sensors, when ingenuity can overcome billion-dollar budgets, the entire structure of modern military spending faces a reckoning. The S-400 is not obsolete. It remains highly capable against traditional threats, aircraft, cruise missiles, ballistic weapons. But it represents a philosophy of warfare that may no longer match reality. In the 21st century, the advantage may belong not to those with the most sophisticated weapons, but to those who can adapt the fastest. Not to those who build fortresses, but to those who think like water flowing around obstacles, finding weaknesses, exploiting gaps. 14 seconds. That's all it took to prove that innovation defeats brute force. That asymmetry defeats symmetry, that in modern warfare the smallest weapons can have the largest impact. The drones over Ukraine aren't just military tools. They're a message to every defense planner in every country. The rules have changed. If this analysis opened your eyes to the future of warfare, subscribe to this channel. We cover military technology, defense strategy, and the real stories behind modern combat. Stories that reveal how warfare is changing faster than most people realize. Next time, we'll examine another technological revolution in Ukraine. How Starlink satellites became the most important weapon system you've never heard of. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and remember, in modern warfare, the most dangerous enemy